There's an old saying in the motoring world, and it goes something like this. If you want to go to Africa or the Australian outback, you take a Defender. But if you want to make it home, you take a Toyota. Now, before you get all offended or cocky, there is some truth to that bold statement. Both a Land Rover and a Toyota will take you wherever you want to go. But Land Rovers have a reputation that is not exactly confidence-inspiring. For what it's worth, this is coming from a Jeep fanboy. Anyway, throughout the history of the automotive industry, delivering groundbreaking changes often comes at a cost. As human beings, it is our nature to push limits, and our cars testify to this. However, standing to deliver on promises of perfection, or even anywhere close, is a challenge while in pursuit of the future. Often sporting less than desirable features, compromised practicality, lackluster performance, and uninspiring design, covering all of the bases is impossible while you're chasing greatness. It's no secret that in the 1980s, sport utility vehicles gained a tremendous following. As the malaise era ended, people wanted the ability to venture off-road without owning a body-on-frame behemoth averaging 6 miles per gallon. By the end of the decade, it became clear that 4x4 off-road vehicles such as Blazers and Broncos were typewriters in a computer lab. Fueled by overwhelming demand and R&D teams hard at work, a descendant of an off-roading titan was born. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the details of how Land Rover started. World War II happened, British development of utilitarian four-wheel drive off-road vehicle, blah blah blah, so I'll cut to the chase. Because it was a subsidiary of British Leyland during the SUV's rise to the top, Land Rover was plagued by its reputation, which wasn't exactly synonymous with reliability. Add in the effects of the global fuel crisis, and between 1980 and 1981, the company faced its biggest sales slump to date, seeing declines of more than 20%. In 1988, the British government convinced a defense company, British Aerospace, to buy the Rover Group. Now imagine your business has just been sold to a company that basically wants nothing to do with you. We all know that feeling when you get a new boss, and you want to make a good impression. Well, seeing the major trend in smaller SUVs, a joint venture between Land Rover and Rover Cars was launched to impress its new owners in hopes that they'd let them keep their jobs. It's within these attempts lie the origins of the Freelander. Land Rover was keen on producing a vehicle that would appeal to a lower price point in the market. Hoping to appeal to conquest customers, those that had not previously owned a Land Rover or any kind of typical 4x4 vehicle, Land Rover wanted to take a leap out of its niche market and into the mainstream market. People that liked the image of a rugged Land Rover but predominantly would use it as a normal car were the target. So the project was dubbed Project Lifestyle. So in March of 1989, a project was officially started to develop this 4x4 midsize SUV. After Honda turned down a partnership offer in the project, it was renamed Pathfinder. Then, Hyundai collaborated briefly on what was now Project Odin. Rover Cars and Land Rover proposed a number of models in Canley, from 1989 until 1993. Then, at the Tokyo Motor Show in October of 1993, everything changed. Toyota unveiled its new RAV4, and the Rover Group knew they were onto something. As the Discovery neared a facelift, Land Rover decided to seriously pursue Project Lifestyle. Enter Richard Elsey, an icon in the modern automotive landscape. Dick was largely credited with defining the UK's car industry, leading the development of the Discovery and its aluminum architecture. After the Discovery's success, Land Rover turned to Elsey for a solution to conflicting requirements among global markets. Americans, in typical fashion, wanted a larger vehicle with more space and a V8 engine, whereas Europeans saw better fuel consumption. Elsey reviewed these criteria and led development of the Discovery 2, which aimed to please the American market while drawing inspiration from Suzuki's Vitara and Toyota's RAV4 to create the Cyclone. Yeah, every masterpiece has its cheap copy, but anyway, as the covers were pulled off the Cyclone during Elsey's presentation to top management, the room erupted. Elsey recalls, in quote, "The reaction was just electric," saying that John Russell, our sales director, turned around and said, "I can sell that one now." So Land Rover engineers quickly got to work, converting a Honda Shuttle to four-wheel drive, using stereo puck components as the base. Steve Haywood, who later took the reins as chief program engineer for the project, recalled that a functional four-wheel drive Cyclone concept was assembled in just 4 to 6 weeks. Thanks to the looming presence of other new midsize SUVs, Project CB40 was created to expedite development. The name came from the project team's base in Canley, Building 40. And after Project Pegasus was leaked and garnered tons of unwanted attention from the public, the boring codename was chosen to deter any interest. Now, there are often times in history where ideas are stolen and credit is missing and all that. But in the words of Dick Elsey himself, as it was my idea, I got put in charge. And he later assumed the role of program director in April of 1993. After failed collaborations with Honda and Hyundai, the Rover Group was sold to BMW in 1994. And here you would probably think that the Germans took over, killed the program to increase the efficiency and the profits. But Elsey recalled quite the opposite. BMW actually saw the potential in Land Rover's new model, and Elsey later said, in quote, "The great thing about BMW is that their board is made up of engineers. They know exactly what you're talking about when you present something to them for approval." And yeah, thanks Dick, but it's pretty obvious the design team isn't really running the show at BMW. So it was settled. Project CB40 was properly assembled and approved by BMW. However, not without a couple specific pointers. First, the collaboration with Saab was killed, where Saab was going to build the body shells, because now BMW provided cash that enabled Land Rover to manufacture them itself. Leading the design of those shells was a man with the skills for the job, Jerry McGovern, responsible for the MGF sports car. But BMW's R&D chief, touting the most German name I can think of, Wolfgang Reitzel, ordered Chris Bangle, you know who that is, to collaborate with Jerry. They were inspired by the discovery to build both 3- and 5-door models, but then broke tradition by assuming a monocoque car structure for the CB40. Not stopping there, solid axles were also dropped in favor of independent suspension to give the CB40 a car-like feel and comfort. To power Land Rover's entry into the midsize SUV market were both Rover car designs, the K-Series engine and the L-Series. First, the K-Series, which was a 1.8 twin-cam 16-valve, was the largest 4-cylinder Rover Group had to offer, and they chose it for its torque figures. Whereas the L-Series diesel engine, also a 4-cylinder, was really just chosen because it would have some good torque and really good fuel economy. Now you probably won't believe this, but the gas engine actually won several awards over its 16-year production run. Most notably, the Queen's Award for Technological Achievement in 1992. After Land Rover engineers got their hands on it, head gasket failures were really common. The engine was to be mounted transversely, and later on, a V6 derivative of the K-Series, the KV6, would be offered mainly to appeal to the US market. The sky is blue. 2 + 2 = 4. Land Rovers have 4-wheel drive. These are just the basic facts of life, and the Freelander would not change that. Rover engineers extensively revised the 4-wheel drive system and ultimately penned its intermediate reduction drive, accompanied by a viscous coupling, a bevel gear transfer power from the front differential driven by the transmission to the rear wheels. The system would react to slip in the front and rear and locking the center when necessary. To make things even more complicated, the front and rear axles use different ratios. When a meeting was called to discuss whether ABS should be standard, someone wondered if it could be used to control downhill speed automatically. Despite hesitation from Roger Crathorne, Land Rover's demonstrations manager and off-road driving guru, the system was developed by braking specialist John Prins, and it was a massive success. Later renamed Hill Descent Control in production, it won the Queen's Award for Technology. Anyway, as the design team sorted out how to give Project CB40 a clean and uncluttered look, whilst maintaining the rugged, tough Land Rover personality, the CB40 was tested under a Maestro van body. These mules were used for more than 350,000 miles of testing, and Dick Elsey recalls a number of inquiries from people wishing to buy these 4x4 Maestro vans. Major testing to prove Project CB40's capability and render a full scope of weaknesses was done from 1995 to 1996 on 56 prototypes, known as DO2 prototypes. They were shipped to places like Australia, South Africa, and Alaska to test in every condition. After working out a number of flaws, the engineers were happy and the project moved to production under the watchful eye of BMW. A new assembly hall was constructed to house production. But just as it was nearing its launch, there was a problem. The model was originally intended to be called the Highlander, but at the time, Volvo owned the rights to the name. With its press introduction just months away, Dick Elsey had it renamed to Freelander because it fit the same space. Finally, it was launched at BMW's home show in September of 1997, and it was a smash hit. The British launch alone attracted nearly 50,000 serious inquiries. And in its first year on sale, it doubled Land Rover's UK sales volume in both 98 and 99, when it became the best-selling 4x4 in Europe. The Freelander came out well in comparison to the Jeep Cherokee and Toyota RAV4. Both automatics and manuals were offered, the former being BMW's Steptronic with manual shifting capability. Also boasting its market position was a genius move not dissimilar to Porsche's Paint to Sample program. Land Rover developed an extensive array of optional accessories to engage customers and add an element of personalization to their Rover. Fog lights, nudge bars, graphics, side steps, and plenty more options would be offered, including more than a dozen paint colors. In 1998, Freelanders were entered in the Camel Trophy event where they would place well and go on to serve as support vehicles in the World Rally Championship. The Freelander was also awarded Car of the Year and Off-Roader of the Year. Later on in production, special editions such as the London, Serengeti, and Millennium editions, touting special color and option combinations, were available in limited quantities. Among the most notable were the Freelander Commercial, a van body with special equipment such as hardback panels, vinyl flooring, and a rear seat delete. At the 2000 British Auto Show, an autobiography edition of the Freelander was introduced, but unfortunately, it never made it to production. One of the examples ended up in the USA with Callaway, where it was supercharged, while the other concepts simply vanished. In his final message to the American people in 1945, Franklin D. Roosevelt wrote, "The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. Let us move forward with strong and active faith." Speaking to the hopes for peace and great achievements in the years after his death, FDR believed ignoring the naysayers was crucial to reaching our full potential and accomplishing our greatest ambitions. Through limitless imagination and unstoppable passion, we are able to forge a path to the future. This message lives on and is especially applicable to the case of the Freelander. Since its inception, there were major doubters, those that thought the major investment was not worth it and Land Rover should just stay in its lane. Even after the Freelander's undeniable success, its eminence is widely ignored across the industry. And yes, not without due cause. The Freelander has a plethora of mechanical faults and disasters. For one, the electronics are, well, British, and the early transmissions available came from either BMW or Rover. The build quality matches that of a house of cards, and, basically everything had something slightly wrong with it. The 2.5-liter V6 models were a disaster, with failing inlet manifolds, VIS motors, cam belts, and of course the complicated exhaust systems, and then there were the clutch hydraulics, and of course the three amigos. But be all of that as it may, the Freelander still offered so much to the automotive landscape. Nearly every vehicle nowadays uses some form of hill descent control, piggybacking off ABS, which the Freelander pioneered. Its all-wheel drive system is also similar to most of what you'll find in a modern crossover, SUV, and even a lot of cars. The Freelander challenges prevailing notions of what defines a bad car. Through its embrace of innovation, a sleek and modern design for its time, and the versatility to tackle trails whilst maintaining mature driving characteristics, in spite of its notorious reputation, the Freelander left an indelible mark on the motoring world. Armed with innovation and dire commitment, automakers move forward, aiming for the realization of tomorrow. And yes, just like the Freelander shows, they fall short of excellence. Whether or not it'll do what a Toyota can in bringing you home from the outback, this Land Rover certainly can take you there. And also beckons adventurers and urban dwellers alike to explore new horizons and change the automotive landscape forever. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and of course, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more. Leave a comment down below to let me know what car you want a video on in the future. And of course, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.